This is Press Play Northwest Radio. I'm Bruce Poinsett.
And I'm Donovan Smith.
Yeah, you're tuned into the official radio show of Press Play Northwest, your destination for deep dives into Northwest hip-hop's most provocative visuals. Make sure to tune in every second and fourth Wednesday for fresh content. And special announcement, we're back live on Zoom July 8th with special guest Rashid Jamal. Not to mention, we'll also have a new podcast coming on July 22nd. So again, make sure to tune in. We are your destination for music video screenings, facilitated discussions, and exclusive interviews and audience Q&A with local artists. In other news, we also have our YouTube page up right now, so you can go find that at Press Play Northwest, Press Play NW. And you can find past episodes of the radio show through June, along with our interview from the throwback episode with Cool Nuts, and coming soon, the full version of episode 1 of the Press Play Northwest podcast. In the meantime, we're going to be playing some more clips from that for you today, so stay tuned for that later on in the show.
Yeah, so again, be on the lookout for updates from Press Play Northwest. An official email list and more social media pages are coming soon, promise you. For now, we're going to get into some music. First, we have Full Outfit by Marquis, followed by a new clip from the podcast with myself, Bruce Poinsett, and Molly Mitchell. I don't know why I said your first and last name like that. But again, you're tuned in to Press Play Northwest Radio. Be back in a second.
Sometimes, Johnny, you just treat me like a regular goyle, and I'm not a regular goyle,
I know, Coco.
Well, what are you gonna do about it then, Johnny boy?
He said he like it when I wear his favorite outfit. Lipstick, high heels, full outfit. Baby said I keep him lit like a matchstick. He said all his other good couldn't hack it. He wanna lick me, slurp, slurp on his mattress. He said, come here, baby, daddy need a practice. Sometimes he don't treat me good, but I still write his kid though. All up in my ass, he curl all of these toes. When he kiss me off, he will go all of his bank rolls. Take me to the mall, let me cop myself some new clothes. Yo, biggie little poppy, he went off me in a hotel lobby. We eat it up so sloppy. He about a button lady wanna top me. Yo, he said he like it when I wear his favorite outfit. Lipstick, high heels, full outfit.
That baby so into me, said that he gon' make me bust so frequently. Make him feel so type of way in these tight blue jeans. Make him get down on one knee, wanna marry me. Yo, who that is your girl Marquis? Freak up in these streets and off in these sheets, yo. So tell me what the deal, little bunny. You said my body tastes like honey. You wanna hop on, little bunny? You ain't got to act so funny. Ooh, you could get the sample, cost no size. Fill up on these thick thighs, yo. Might save your life. Roll a little cheap, we can get high. Roll a little cheap, we can get high.
He said he like it when I wear his favorite outfit. Lipstick, high heels, full outfit. How's that, Coco?
We can work on it, Johnny boy.
This made me think about anyways. Like we just recently saw the closing of a major staple in Northeast Portland and Black business in Genevas for decades and decades. So when we're talking about, especially during like this pandemic, like the effect on both just like culture, but specifically like on business and minority-owned, Black-owned businesses, like that was kind of, I think it was only like a few weeks ago. It feels like, every day, Monday feels like a month ago. So it feels like forever, but yeah, that just happened. So yeah. You gotta add something to that.
It's I mean, like Genevas to me, like since I saw that, I was like that. There's really not any institutions that are that like culturally important in terms of Black Portland that are left outside of like Black churches. Like maybe Genevas is that important. I remember when I did an updated like photo shoot of like the gentrification's weird T-shirts. Um, Probably like 2 years ago, and I chose to do it at Genevas. I didn't even go to Genevas like growing up. That wasn't my place. When I had short hair, I was getting cut at like Kingdom Cuts, or I would go to the Fagans for a cheaper cut because it was the school, the barber school, so we could get cheaper hair. But no, I went to Genevas because if we're talking about like Black culture, like that is just like that important. So I wanted to represent it, through being at Mr. Knowles' shop and everything. And so him at 89 having to make that decision as COVID was kind of like taking away his business prospects. And, he's obviously business savvy enough to try and navigate the waters, but also like after decades in business at, that particular shop, and then decades before that of being in business, having this thing come through and him just kind of saying, all right, enough is enough, type of thing. And calling it like I get it, I get it. And then it's also for like the entire Black Portland, Black Oregon. It's one of those things that is kind of inexplicable, like in terms of what that actual feeling is. I actually have an article coming out on in Hey Neighbor, which is Northeast Coalition of Neighborhoods newspaper, about the closing, but more specific, like, the barbers impact, the barbers and beauticians, because like there's a lot of energy around Mr. Knowles, rightfully so. Just them as independent contractors too, and like them having to, or not independent contractors, but employees, but now having to navigate being in this pandemic and then trying to find employment. And then also like a lot of them, their first thought still through that was like, damn, we're losing Genevas,
Mm-hmm.
like that would like, it's not about a job, it's like, it's Genevas.
So you just heard Full Outfit by Marquis and a clip from episode 1 of the Press Play Northwest podcast. This is Press Play Northwest Radio. Quickly, I just want to give a shout out to Trevor Beckley at the Numbers for, giving us, a big batch of, radio edits. I think it's important we try and, for your listening experience, try and, we want to give you all that, the region has to offer. And, people cuss. So we gotta, we gotta work with it, but, we're expanding the selection for you. Anyways.
But artists, y'all need to start making clean versions of your tracks, just real quick. Make clean versions of your music.
Artists, do what you do, but yeah, also make clean versions. Be creative, but help us out, because we don't really have any bargaining chips here. So I'm just gonna move on. Anyways, we want to take a minute to remind you that if you haven't yet signed up for the 2020 census, please do that. The census determines where your vital public resources, i.e. the resources you already pay for with your tax dollars, get distributed, and Black and brown communities are notoriously undercounted. It takes very little time and goes a long way to ensuring your community has what it needs between now and the next census in 2030. You can pledge to take the census by texting Oregon to 33339. Once again, that's Oregon, OREGON, to 33339. And for more information, visit WeCountOregon.com.
Now we've got some more music for y'all. Up next is West Coast Living by Risk One, featuring Nate Grapes. And then we'll have more of our conversation from the Press Play Northwest podcast, where we'll be diving in a little bit more into the rent moratorium and just the general system that's at play. Again, you're tuned in to Press Play Northwest Radio. We'll be back in just a second.
How you saying that you got it when you ain't it? How you bragging like you poppin', but you got no hits? Talking all that loud game like you bank chips? My hip slide hit your crib and wet that brick. Bag of grip with my gunners from the rose clip. What you think this is, a rap game? Homie, this a meal ticket. Looking like a victim when we get it. Nothing but that West Coast living. Hey, I pop off, guess what you think? I'ma get mine, hustle all day. Not your little 9 to 5, being 35, ain't tryna stack bank, more food on them plates where them homies run away. East side, where I live, huh? Never give up. Up in the proud minds while you're flashing big nines, heavy on the grind. Tear more crime hits, cash flow, trying to gather pesos, tripping on your main though. Boy, you on game low, homie playing dog, my hot lanes, packing out the whole squad though. 5 feet tapping out Jones, breaking down lows. I bring the public about your man's low. We ain't play for. Road side is the click vato, east side is the base logo. City of Rose OC, records gotta take control, so watch your back and hold your weight low. How you saying that you got it when you ain't it? How you bragging like you poppin', but you got no hits? Talking all that loud game like you bank chips? My hip slide hit your crib and break that brick. Bag of grip with my gunners from the rose clip. What you think this is, a rap game? Homie, this a meal ticket. Looking like a victim when we get it. Nothing but that West Coast living.
Run from the beat to the road city. Keep it gangsta, I ain't never got no with me. Never solo, either got the fofo or my bros with me. You is so iffy. Play with this one, but I flip some. Metal rays, I never graze. Not so iffy. Knocking at heaven's door. Choppers, I let him go. Hit one of mine. I'm not finna let it go. Ain't gotta say this K Cliff finna let him know. A day in my shoes like a walk through the heavy snow. Walk light, but I'm heavy though. At least the gun on my waist is. Get in touch with the sun to a spaceship. Run your mouth, bitch. Chop the tongue out your face, kid. Try and roll this wood, get your son out my face. So you thought it's good to this gun in your face. Hey.
How you saying that you got it when you ain't it? How you bragging like you poppin', but you got no hits? Talking all that loud game like you bank chips? My hip slide hit your crib and wet that brick. Bag of grip with my gunners from the rose clip. What you think this is, a rap game? Homie, this a meal ticket. Looking like a victim when we get it. Nothing but that West Coast living.
Correct me if I'm wrong here, but that like 90-day rent moratorium, that's going to be done at the end of this month. Like, so I'm kind of, people have been saying like, what's going to happen like when some of the people are done after like the 2 weeks or whatever. And that's one of those dates I'm looking at, like July, and saying, so we're reopening for, some people, and we'll see how that works. But again, a lot of people are out of work. We've had a rent moratorium. That's shaky at best. That's not cancellation. It's not doing anything. What's going to happen in July when all these landlords are basically set free to evict people, harass people? I mean, some of them, I still get noticed. So, it is what it is. But yeah, what is coming down the line? Because again, none of this it's not getting better anytime soon on a systemic level, even if we had, competent leadership at the top, like the federal government, which we don't. So yeah. Kittens and rainbows, right?
These are some of the questions that I'm really interested in engaging in my work here. I'm a student at Yale Divinity School, and part of, sort of learning what pastoral care is involves deep questions about what is suffering and how to accompany it. And as we look forward into sort of these depths that not only are we currently experiencing new levels of sort of the systemic suffering that coronavirus has brought, but sort of surfacing sort of centuries of pain over and over again in the ways that that's happening, in the way that we have access to technology and each other right now, that like this is a very real need to understand what is happening in terms of our own capacities for suffering and laboring with each other through the pains of what is about to be born. That it isn't going to be super quick. It is going to probably be a very long process. But that's a part of what we are called into being as co-laborers in this movement, in the work with each other, to bear witness to each other's pain and the ways that like we can show up and mitigate that pain. I think earlier, Bruce, you were asking about what else needs to be thought of in when we're, if we need to care for one another well. And I mean, it's obviously all the things, but access to transportation being one very small part of that. Access to food and drinking water, access to safe shelter. What does shelter look like when we're threatened with eviction, when we're threatened with, being unhoused? As a person who's been housed most of my life, that's a very different question that I luckily have not had to consider. But I think at this point and at this place in our economic history, like you were saying earlier, like it's going to take all sorts of motion to really move this revolution forward. And unfortunately, that will involve pain. It will involve suffering. It will involve kind of the ways that things need to kind of break for things to be reborn. And I don't think I think that's maybe only new to maybe white folks or folks who've not had to consider what it would take before because the system was working for them.
So you just heard West Coast Living by Risk One featuring Nate Grapes, along with a very timely clip from the Press Play Northwest podcast, because it's that time again. It's the segment we are calling the Rebellion Report. And we got news today. We're recording this on Monday, the 29th of June. And Oregon legislature just passed a bill extending the eviction moratorium through September. So I would assume that, people don't want to add any more fuel to the fire of, desperation out there. So, good on them for that. Also, cancel rent. Like that would be the move, but we take little steps where we can get them. But we want to take this week to highlight my co-host has some actually really big news that came out over the past weekend. He's been working with Don't Shoot on their report on the effects of tear gas. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Donovan, to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we've been working on this thing for a couple of weeks now. Myself, Dr. Anita Randolph, who's with OHSU, Zadora, forgive me if I get your last name wrong, I believe it's Williams, and then Arya Mormon, we've all just been, who's Miss Black Oregon, U.S. ambassador, have been working on this thing just to kind of figure out what this tear gas that has been deployed most nights during the uprisings. What is this stuff? And as we've dug in, it's been crazy because I had no idea. Tear gas, pepper spray, those things are just kind of like part of our kind of common lexicon. But really, this thing is something that's been banned for military usage through the 1993 Geneva Convention. We're in 2020 right now. I was born in 91 for military usage, but somehow we're using this, on people who are, protesting for human rights. And so it's really this solid compound that has to go through like a quick kind of combustion, essentially, once it is released as this gas onto people. It's obviously the most immediate effects that we can see. Like it just common sense doesn't even need a report to tell you. Like it's making people cough. It's making people, tear up. We're in a pandemic. Like that's just one thing. And but even when you dig in further beyond that particular point, is this thing has been shown to kill animals depending on the amount of exposure that they have to it. And it's also, just kind of the general range of the tear gas. This thing can be getting into people's houses and causing them problems. It can, these things are happening downtown as well. So there's a lot of unhoused folks who might be kind of collaterally affected, and anybody else who's kind of in these areas. But the report is on Don't Shoot's website. That's don'tshootpdx.org, where you can kind of peel through the whole thing. We just did a press conference in front of the Justice Center that you can find on most of the major local outlets, KGW, K2, if you want to kind of get a fuller synopsis of it. But yeah, if you've been affected by this tear gas or know anybody, please circulate the link that that is also to get legal support. So
Yeah. I just want to say again, thank you to Don't Shoot PDX, yourself included, for this very important work and putting it out there for the people, suing the city to get this, out of use. Because again, it's not, it's banned by the Geneva Convention, but we're using all American citizens. Anyways, that is our show for this evening. But tune in every week at 5, and keep your eyes and ears open for new updates from Press Play Northwest. Again, we're going to be back live July 8th on Zoom at 5:30 with special guest Rashid Jamal. He's released probably 3,000-4,000 projects this year. So, the most prolific artist in the region. So that's going to be a great conversation. You can register for that meeting. Follow the hashtag PressPlay Northwest, PressPlay NW, or at any account, any of the Gentrification is Weird accounts, whether it's on, IG, Facebook, wherever else you may find Gentrification is Weird. And again, stay on the lookout. We got, mailing list and other social media pages coming. But we got one last song for you tonight. This is Shelley's by Blimes and Gab. Their new album, Talk About It, just hit stores on Friday, this past Friday. So, go check that out. Go listen to that. Go pick that up. It's on your favorite streaming service. But anyways, this has been Press Play Northwest Radio. I'm Bruce Poinsett.
And I'm Donovan Smith. And thanks for tuning in, and make sure to stay tuned for all the latest updates from Press Play Northwest. Because honestly, where else are you going to go?
it's clearly you I'm choosing. Let your body speak to me. You can't deny the chemistry. I'm vibing with your energy for real. It's real. The lights is turning on. The DJ played the final song. I think it's time we take it home. We can chill. It's chill. Tonight we turn miles into millimeters. You and me is gravity. I feel the real between us. Bring it right here. I'll show you where you see this. Yeah, I'm like an usher in the movie theater. Who eager to get it litter than a kitty box. Show me so love, give hugs, and we merely rock. Back to my spot, a few city